They called themselves warriors. Caesar called them something else, and with that single word, he turned humanity's greatest fighters into begging children. This isn't ancient history, it's your present reality. Let me take you there. It's the kind of scene history allows only once. Julius Caesar alone facing hundreds of his own armed soldiers in open rebellion. These weren't just any soldiers. They were his elite veterans, men who had conquered half the world for him. Now they wanted rewards, and they were ready to take them by force. What weapon did Caesar use against these hardened killers? Not a sword, not poison, not even a brilliant speech. Just one word.
Citizens!
And in the next breath, reality bent. These dangerous armed men, seconds away from mutiny, suddenly began begging Caesar to let them remain soldiers. The rebellion collapsed instantly. One word changed everything, and the crazy part, the same psychological weapon still works today, and it's being used on you. Probably while you're scrolling through Instagram, thinking you're making independent choices about those shoes you suddenly need. So, how did one word have so much power? Why did these warriors surrender in shame? And why are you still vulnerable to the same trick thousands of years later? Well, we're about to see the answer to all that right now. 47 BCE, Caesar faces a dangerous moment. His most loyal soldiers, the 10th Legion, are in full rebellion. These are men who fought hard battles for him, crossed rivers they weren't supposed to cross, and conquered enemies across the world. Now they want what they were promised: money, land, and discharged from service. They're armed, they outnumber Caesar's guards. Most leaders would try to make a deal, or call for backup, or run. Caesar did something much simpler and far more brilliant. He looked at these angry soldiers and called them one thing.
Quirites!
Not my men, not warriors, just Quirites, the Roman word for ordinary citizens. Regular people, nobodies. The ancient equivalent of calling Navy SEALs mall cops. And just like that, the rebellion fell apart. How did one word have so much power? And why are you falling for the same trick every time you panic about losing your verified blue check mark on Twitter? When Caesar called his soldiers Quirites, he took away the one thing they valued most: their identity as soldiers. In ancient Rome, being a soldier wasn't just a job, it was everything. It meant respect, purpose, brotherhood, and honor. Soldiers were special, citizens were just regular people, the participation trophy recipients of the ancient world. By calling them Quirites, Caesar was saying, "You're not special anymore, you're just like everyone else now." Ouch. It's like being kicked out of the cool kids table and sent to sit with the math club, except the math club is the entire civilian population of Rome. That hit them harder than any weapon could. Now think about it in today's terms. Imagine if everything that makes you feel important was suddenly taken away. Your job title, gone. No, LinkedIn thought leader isn't a real job, by the way. Your group memberships cancelled, your social status erased, those Instagram followers not your friends. Shocking, I know. Most of us would panic, just like those Roman soldiers did. Here's why. We don't just have identities. In many ways, our identities have us, like that expensive gym membership you never use but can't bear to cancel. Because if you do, then what kind of person would you be? The labels we accept shape how we see ourselves and how others treat us. And when someone threatens those labels, it feels like they're attacking the core of who we are. Caesar knew this, and he used it perfectly. Kind of like how your favourite brands convince you that without their new phone, shoes, car or skincare, you're basically a worthless cave person. The strongest human fear isn't death, it's being kicked out of your group. When Caesar called his soldiers Quirites, he wasn't just changing their title, he was removing them from their tribe. He was saying, "You don't belong with us anymore." This works because humans are wired to need groups. For thousands of years, being alone meant death. No one survived long without their tribe. That's why even today we're all desperate to be part of something, even if that something is just a Facebook group dedicated to cats that look like Nicolas Cage. Caesar understood something that powerful people today know very well. Humans will do almost anything to keep belonging to a group they value. Look at your own life. Have you ever stayed quiet about something you believe because saying it might upset your friends? Have you changed how you dress, talk, or act to fit in with a certain group? What would you do if your social circle suddenly rejected you? We like to think we make our own choices, but often our choices are shaped by our need to belong. That's why you've convinced yourself that kale tastes good and running marathons is fun. Those tough Roman soldiers, men who faced death in battle without fear, couldn't handle being called regular citizens. They begged Caesar to call them soldiers again. That's how powerful belonging is. And yes, that's exactly why you're still in that group chat that gives you anxiety every time it pings. Next shows just how brilliant Caesar's move really was. The soldiers didn't just accept being called soldiers again. They competed for it. In minutes, they went from demanding rewards to begging for forgiveness. The power completely flipped. Caesar, playing it perfectly, pretended to reluctantly take most of them back. For the biggest troublemakers, he reduced their share of treasure and land, hitting both their wallets and their status. This is where Caesar's genius really shows. Once he had the power to give back their identity, he made them work for it. You can be a soldier again if you prove you deserve it. The mutineers transformed from demanding to begging, from "give us what we deserve" to "please let us be soldiers again." This same pattern happens everywhere today. The company that makes you feel worthless without your job title. The social media platform where your value depends on likes and followers. How much of your life is spent trying to keep identities that other people control? What would happen if you decided those identities don't define your worth? Terrifying thought, isn't it? Almost as scary as having to introduce yourself without mentioning your job title. So what can we learn from this ancient power move? How can we protect ourselves from being controlled the same way? Here's a simple approach. Understand how identity control works, then make sure you're not easy to manipulate. Which is a bit like saying, just don't be so insecure, as if you could turn that off like a light switch. But let's try anyway. Start by asking yourself, what labels and identities am I most attached to? Who has the power to take these identities away? Spoiler, it's usually someone who doesn't deserve that power. Who would I still be if these labels were gone? Hint, probably someone who needs better hobbies. The philosopher Epictetus, who was once a slave, said it best, make freedom your goal, not status. True freedom starts by seeing how we're controlled. Remember too that you have this same power in your relationships. The words you choose when talking to others can either build them up or control them. Choose wisely, unless they leave their shopping cart in the middle of the parking space, in which case psychological warfare is totally justified. So, should I manipulate people like Caesar did, you might wonder? With power comes responsibility. Caesar's approach worked, but it was manipulation, using psychology as a weapon. Then again, he didn't have to sit through 3 hours of your cousin's destination wedding slideshow, so maybe he was onto something. The better path: help people become less dependent on external labels rather than exploiting their insecurities. Yes, this means you'll probably never rule the Roman Empire, but your karma will be much better. Here's the most important lesson. What made Caesar's words so powerful was that it changed how the soldiers saw themselves. The strongest control doesn't work by changing things around you. It works by changing how you see yourself. But here's the good news. No one can make you accept an identity you choose to reject, though they can certainly try, as evidenced by every family reunion where your relatives still ask when you're going to get a real job. The soldiers had a choice they couldn't see. They could have said, call us whatever you want, we know who we are. Instead, they panicked. But that requires something rare, the ability to define yourself regardless of what others say. You know, that thing you claim to have right before changing your opinion when the group chat disagrees. Building this kind of inner strength isn't easy, but it is simple. 1. Know your sources. Figure out where your ideas about yourself really come from. Hint, if your self-worth came in an Amazon package, you might have issues. 2. Check your attachments. Notice which identities you're too dependent on, like that one friend who mentions their CrossFit membership, Tesla, and keto diet in the first 30 seconds of every conversation. 3. Examine your validators. See who you've given the power to define your worth. If your mood changes based on how many strangers liked your dinner photo, you've given your power to people who might literally be on the toilet while judging you. 4. Write your own story. Consciously decide who you are, and maybe, just maybe, that story doesn't need to be documented in 17 Instagram stories a day. Is this easy? No, but is it worth it? Ask yourself what price you're paying for letting other people define who you are. Probably at least the cost of a new iPhone every year, plus whatever you're spending on those subscription boxes filled with stuff you don't need. The moment you stop needing external validation for your worth is the moment you become truly free. It's also the moment you become really annoying to your friends who are still deep in the validation game, but that's a small price to pay. Let's pause for just a breath. We release weekly videos exploring the timeless mechanics of power, from ancient empires to the instincts that still trigger fear, loyalty, and desire. We follow the architects of control, the performers of ritual, the legends of will. Some are icons, some you've never heard of, all shape the world you live in, if you like focused storytelling. Historical insight and a wink of visual irony, subscribe and join us as we decode the power playbook one story at a time. The final lesson from Caesar's brilliant word trick isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding human nature, including your own. We all search for meaning in a world that doesn't come with clear instructions. We all need connection in a world where belonging often comes with conditions. We all tell ourselves stories about who we are, and most of those stories would make terrible Netflix originals, yet we keep renewing them for another season. These aren't weaknesses, they're just part of being human, like our weird obsession with pimple-popping videos or telling the barber, yeah, it looks great, when it absolutely does not. Caesar used these human needs to control others. The wiser path: understand these needs in yourself so you're harder to manipulate. It's like developing an immunity to marketing tactics by working in marketing. Suddenly you see the matrix code behind every limited time offer. Knowing that your worth isn't tied to a title, a group membership, or someone else's approval isn't just feel-good talk. It's practical protection in a world where identity manipulation happens every day in advertising, politics, social media, and relationships. It's armor against the digital equivalent of Caesar calling you Quirites 27 times before breakfast through your various screens. Most importantly, understanding this truth lets you offer others something Caesar never would: acceptance of their value that doesn't depend on any label, which is a nice way of saying loving people even when they're being completely annoying. A true superpower. That's not just personal freedom, that's how we build a better world. A single word once broke an army, but self-knowledge can make you unbreakable. Stay strong, Quirites. I mean, warriors. But now it's your turn. When was the last time you did something just to belong? Who's the Caesar shouting at you today? And what if this story is apocryphal, just a myth? Does that make it any less relevant?